the companies that bought our product, the CDs at the time. It was also service to the 129 companies that we owned, providing them with what they needed to develop their product. And then we had another area we had to focus on, which were the musicians and the artists, supporting them in delivering their product, the master tape, to us. So there was a lot of levels of service that we supplied. What we're going to talk about today is what is customer service? We're going to also have a discussion of how the customers engage with your company, how you can then build a service culture in your company, the importance of the employees being engaged in that process, and no matter how hard you try, you're going to find that there are times when it doesn't work. You're going to have a service failure, and we're also going to address how you recover customer service in that incident. Okay. Now, I'd like to do a little bit of an exercise before we start. I'd like you each to take a minute or two and think about, as a customer, because we are all customers, I'd like you to bring to mind an experience that you really enjoyed, one of the best customer service experiences you've experienced. Then after you've done that, I'd like you to think of the opposite, a really bad customer experience that you had. And that'll help you understand a lot of things that we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to give you a minute or two just to remember that, and then we'll move on. And the other thing that we do have a chat box. So as we're moving forward, if you have a question, please put it in there. I will check that periodically, and I'll make sure we get your questions answered. Okay. Give you another minute. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to share a really good customer service experience I've had, and also a bad one. And when we go to the best experience, there's one that always comes to mind for me. For a number of years, my wife and I lived in London, England. And we would, on some Sundays, especially a rainy Sunday when we weren't doing too much, take a ride in the countryside, which was really beautiful. We'd try and find a small village, and we'd go and have a pub lunch. And one Sunday we did that. We drove out of London for a little while on some back roads into the beautiful countryside, and we came across this small village, and there was a nice little pub there. And it was around noontime, so the church was getting out, and we went into the local pub. The name of the village was Loxley, and the name of the pub was the Fox at Loxley. So we walked in, and first of all, we got a really great greeting. It was from Tom, the pub keep, or the pub owner, and he introduced himself. We introduced ourselves to him, and it was a little chill, and he said, "Would you like something to warm up?" And we said to him, "Okay, yeah, that'd be great." And he suggested, they have these little shot glasses, tall ones, a schooner of sherry. And we said, "Hey, that sounds like a good idea." So we got that. We sat down, beautiful interior. The meal was great. The people who got out of church came in. There was a little bit of atmosphere. It was really, the meal was nice. The atmosphere was great. It was a great experience. However, that's not the end of the story. About 5 or 6 weeks later, we said, "Hey, let's go to the Fox on Loxley." Yeah, it's a rainy Sunday afternoon. We drove out, we pulled in, we got there about the same time. And, the church was getting out. You could see the people walking into the pub. And we walked into the pub. And the first thing that happened, which was amazing, is Tom, the pub keep, welcomed us by our first names. He remembered us, and he said, "Oh, it's great to see you guys." Number one. Number two, the second thing he did, he said, "Would you like your schooners of sherry?" And it was kind of like, I have remembered that all my life. It was like he recognized us, he honored us, and the service was fantastic. Now, along the lines, the worst experience Um, I guess in the same vein, have you ever gone to a restaurant, gotten seated, whatever the restaurant is, a fancy one, whatever, and maybe you get some water to the table. Maybe you wait a little while and the menu comes along. Maybe, you get service, it seems to take a while. You kind of feel like you're invisible. Has anybody ever had an experience like that where you just kind of don't feel like you're being taken care of? So now, what is customer service? Well, customer service is always the perception of the customer. And what I like about this picture is a lot of companies have a view of what their customer service is. And guess what? Their customer may have a very different view. And we're going to talk a little bit later about making sure we can get those in line, if at all possible. Okay. Now, I'd like to get into what does it cost to get a customer? And I kind of had to put in this little cartoon. I don't know if you've ever experienced, like most of us have, calling a place. And first of all, after you get through the 47 different versions of what you can contact, then you finally talk to somebody. And sometimes you feel like, they want to talk to you, they don't want to talk to you, or, you can basically just go on hold forever, right? But on the serious side, there are people who study what it costs for every business to get customers. And there's some interesting information that a lot of people aren't aware of. First of all, acquiring new customers can cost about 5 times more than retaining the existing people that you have. Okay. Now, if you can increase your customer retention as little as 5%, depending on the type of business you're in, you can increase your profits from between 25 to 95%. Okay. And why is that? Well, take a look at selling to existing customers. Your success rate typically is within the 60 to 70% range. Now, if you're trying to sell whatever you service, your product to a new customer, you find on average the success rate of closing that sale is somewhere in the 5 to 20% range. Now, if you take a look at your existing customers, they are 5 times more likely to repurchase whatever they purchase from you, the good or service. In addition to that, an existing customer is 5 times more likely to forgive you if there is an issue. They are 4 times more likely to refer somebody to your business. And if you have something new you're introducing to your business, they are on average 7 times more likely to try whatever that is new that you're offering. Okay. And as late as, not last year, but it was before COVID, a study showed that when customers switch, the customer churn that we all hear about with bigger companies, even for the smaller companies, on average, US companies lose about close to $14 billion a year because the customer that they had has left. Okay. Now, we want to take a look at what creates customer loyalty. Okay. Now, customer loyalty, there's this bonding process, the relationship that you build with a customer. Now, it does not follow from successful interactions with the customer. If they come into your store or your shop or use your service, doesn't mean you built loyalty at that phase. It requires a plan. What do you do to build that bond? And in many businesses, it is the most overlooked aspect of building your business, creating that customer loyalty. Now, let's take a look at the phases of customer loyalty. You have somebody who comes in the first time for your good or your service. It's kind of a try. They're just trying you out. Maybe they happen to be walking down the street, they saw it. Maybe they saw an ad on the internet, don't know. But they're making a try. It's all about them doing something and satisfying a personal need or a personal want. In many cases, the interaction with that person is somewhat limited. Many times they come in, do whatever they need to do, and leave. there's very limited feedback. And the relationship is kind of iffy. Will they come back? You don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Okay. Now, let's go to the next phase. This is where somebody is familiar with your business. They've returned, maybe just once. This is an opportunity for you, running your business, to increase the interaction with the customer, however is appropriate. However, there's a double-edged sword here. When a person walks into your business the second time, they have an expectation that at least the service they experienced the first time is the baseline of their expectation, and they may even be expecting a little more. And have you ever gone back to a place, had a great experience, the second time you walk in, it wasn't so great, and you've left? Okay. Now that's the danger if you're not managing this process. So let's go on to a repeat. Somebody's coming back to your store or your business regularly, more than once. Okay. They are starting to get familiar with the whole business, maybe not just where they went, but the whole picture. And they also may start to notice some of your people, the employees. This is where you start to develop the relationship. They know a little bit about you, you know a little bit about them. Okay. And once again, as they go through this process, their expectations, what they expect to get, have gone up. Now, we go through the next phase, which is the like phase. This is where they begin to integrate the business into their lifestyle. Example of that is, like I guess a Starbucks. People go there for coffee. They see it's a nice place to hang out. Then they may say, "Hey, let's go down and have Starbucks, a cup of coffee with a bunch of the friends, guys, girls, whatever." Okay, it becomes part of something they do. The relationship is kind of building, but it's at an early stage. However, once they start to integrate it into the lifestyle, they have a higher expectation of service. And they're developing kind of a sense of loyalty. Okay. So now we go to trust. This is an advanced level of customer bonding. You know a lot about them. They know a lot about your business. Okay. And they have a very high level of service. And it's not that they doubt if it'll be there. They know it's going to be there. They trust it, which is very good unless there's an issue. Okay. There's a very strong relationship existing between the customer and the business and the people working in the business. And there's a beginning, the sense of loyalty has increased. So now, this is the most advanced stage. This is the highest stage of customer loyalty. This is when the people are openly talking about your business. This is exactly what you want, because those are the people who are bringing their friends and your business is growing that way. So now, let's take a look at some of the companies that are really good at this, okay? One of my wife's favorites is Trader Joe's here in Lake Grove. Trader Joe's has got an unbelievable following of people. Basically they start on the West Coast, they've spread. And there's one thing that, if you know anything about Trader Joe's, they focus on, well, there's two things. They focused on their employees, and that builds their employee understanding of how to focus on the customers. So when you go into Trader Joe's, it is a really great experience. Another example is Rackspace. I'm not sure you may know what Rackspace is, but it is a cloud infrastructure company. They supply storage space, files, and it's a very, very good business. Now, they are the highest priced business in that group. However, the way that they have been growing their business is they have one focus: fanatical support. No matter what happens, they are going to support your business 100%. And today that is so important, because how many businesses are putting their files on the cloud, and if their cloud isn't working, they've got an issue. Now, another example of a great company is Ritz-Carlton. If you ever stayed there, okay, it costs a little bit of money, but you feel really good. They take care of you. It's personal service, and they really have a great focus on details. Everything is in great shape. But on the flip side, we have the Hall of Shame. It's interesting. I just kind of realized this after I put this together, that a lot of the Hall of Shame guys are airlines. And you have Frontier Airlines. I don't know if you read this in the paper, I guess about a year or so ago. They had a couple of kids that they were flying. They were returning home to Orlando. They had visited their grandparents. There was poor weather. They couldn't fly into Atlanta. I mean, they couldn't fly into Orlando. They flew into Atlanta. Now, okay, everybody was safe, but they didn't arrange to do anything to take care of the children who were on the flight. They were just kind of roaming around the hallway for a while until somebody said, what are these kids doing? I don't know if you've ever had an experience with this company, MoviePass. I'm not even sure that they're in business anymore, but this was the company that said, okay, for $10 a month, you sign up with us and you can watch a movie a day. And I guess the thing was you can watch a movie a day, maybe, because it really didn't work that well. Southwest Airlines, another example of poor service. A father and I believe his daughter were on a flight. The young girl was crying. She was sitting on his lap. Eventually, flight attendant came over, asked the father to put the child into the seat, strap her in, and he did that. The child had quieted down. Everything's good, except for some reason, the flight attendant came over and asked the father and the daughter to get off the plane. And another example of that is American Airlines has a policy. Well, maybe it has a policy. It says it has a policy, but maybe not. A professional musician, basically has her cello, and they have a policy where they say, listen, if you have an expensive instrument and it's your job, you can actually buy a seat next to you and you can strap your instrument into the seat and we'll take care of you. So this lady had a $30,000 cello. She bought the ticket for herself. She bought the ticket for the cello, and she strapped it into the seat next to her. She's all ready to go. For some reason, that flight attendant came over, asked her to leave the plane, and made her get off. Right? Not a real good deal. Now, so the thing is, how do we create a customer service culture in your business? Well, one of the things that is really important to understand, it starts with the owner. Basically, how the owner acts sets the tone. And if you have a management structure in your business, the management reflects and mimics the behavior of the owner, and actually the values of the owners. And the employees basically mimic the behaviors and values of the managers. So it comes from the top down. That's very important. And we hear all the time, but you have to practice what you preach. And in addition, there needs to be an even and fair award of positive behaviors and results in the business. Okay. Now, the delivery of behavior, an important part of delivery of customer service is behavior. And basically, what I'm trying to get across here is good listening. If you go into a store and you felt that, or a business, and you felt like you listened to, you feel kind of like it's helpful for you. You're going to make progress. However, what is it like when you walk into a business and people are huffing and puffing, and you kind of feel like you're bothered and you really don't want to stay there? Behavior is incredibly important. Also, a big component of customer service, and which leads to customer loyalty, is communicating. If the owner of the business is communicating everything to the right people, the right information at the right time, and that gets through the whole organization, that helps your customer loyalty and service. Okay. Now, the other thing that is important, and we're going to summarize these shortly, is there's a difference between walking into a business and talking to somebody, and you ask them a question, and the answer may be, I don't know. Now, where a company has encouraged their employees to take responsibility and encourage accountability, the answer might be, I don't know, but I'm going to go find somebody who does. If you could wait right here, we'll be right back. Okay. Now, the important part here is to examine your policies. Now, I know a lot of small businesses don't have written policies. That's okay. If you don't have written policies, believe it or not, you still have policies. It's what you've set up, it's how you act. And take a look at, are the policies, are the way you treat your customers friendly? Or is, if a customer has an issue, is it just, oh, that's that person just complaining? Okay, you're not really addressing that. Basically, there's a lot of different situations. Everything is not the same. Now, when there is an issue with customer service, is the situation, what is actually happening in that moment, being taken into account? And is there flexibility in your policies? And also consider, there's kind of this, are your employees empowered to make decisions? An example of this that you've all probably seen over the last number of years is, years ago, you walked into a store, you had a return. It might have been a bit of a process to get the return. Now, if you go to customer service on most companies, you basically, there's no questions asked. The return is processed, the paperwork's processed, and you get on your way. Okay. Now, the other thing that is very important is hiring the people who are going to support your business and the culture. Typically, I don't know if anybody, sometimes you go and you're trying to get something fixed on your computer. You get a techie who's antisocial, is kind of not the best fit for the customer service desk at your tech business. So you want to make sure that the people that have their ability to do the job, but they also have the right personality for how you're trying to run your business. Now, but we're going to talk about how the employees support your customer service, your customer loyalty, and your business. So now let's talk about engaged customers. Basically, what's going to happen, typically, you're going to have your engaged employees providing the service that you're looking for. They're going to also be the type of people who stay in your business. Okay. Now, that's going to lead to customer satisfaction. And as we go through the process that we did earlier in this presentation, that leads to customer loyalty. And then that leads to growth of the business and also profit of the business. Okay. So now, there is comparison of satisfied employees versus engaged employees. Engaged employees are staying, they're staying with the company and they're striving. They speak positively about the business they're working in, either to customers or others. They are committed to remaining with the company, and they are motivated by the people who are leading the business, whether it's the owners, the managers, and the values, the cultural values that they have personally are the same as the company's, and that tends to allow them to go above and beyond, as we heard earlier with our dress, to contribute to the business success and to the customer loyalty. Now, if you take a look at the experience of engagement, okay? If you start out with an employee who is just satisfied with their job, not engaged at this phase, basically what you see is what they do is transactional. It's just what they have to do to get the job done. However, as you move through and move your company to focusing on customer service and engaging your employees, you start to find that you have the people's hearts, their spirits, their whole body is, whole person is involved in supporting your business and the customer service. And that's when you create the opportunity to transform where your business is. Now, if we take a look at the levels of employee engagement, there's fundamentally 3 levels. If you start out with the highly engaged, These are the people who have switched into using their talents. They build connections with your customers. They are committed to the organization. They typically have high energy, and they're looking to broaden their responsibility, their engagement with the company and the customers. Now, you have another level, moderately engaged. Those are the people that, they're doing a job, they meet the goals, they're kind of satisfied with their position, and they do what they're required, not a whole lot more. Then you may have come across people who are disengaged. They're confused, they really don't use their resources, and they're not really all that committed to the business. So what does that mean? Well, to a business, if you focus on getting your people engaged, your employees engaged, you have a payback. Fully engaged employees typically return more than you pay them. Okay, the value that you get out. Then you have kind of a lower, but still very good. Your engaged employees, typically studies show you're going to get 100% of what you pay them back. Then you have the lesser engaged, kind of engaged. The return on the salary is about 80%, and disengaged, you're only getting about 60% back of what you're paying the people. Okay. Now, how do you build employee engagement? And basically there's manager training. Now, for smaller companies, that manager training could be as simple as a short meeting at the end of a shift or the beginning of a shift to discuss what went on, and you start to address any issues that came up, and that's the opportunity to be coaching the employees and move them through. And basically that coaching leads to them understanding some of the empowerment that you want. And also, basically, people who do a great job, there is a pay performance requirement so that you can actually continue to build your business however you choose. Okay. Now, once again, the thingy is frozen. Okay, guys. Oops. Okay, so that's how we build employee engagement. Now, let's talk about, you've done all of that. You've done all your work, your policies are online, you're really flying, and guess what? You still have a service failure. Okay. It's going to happen. Okay. Now, there's one of the things with a service failure, a good recovery of that service failure can turn your customer, who is probably angry and mad at you, into a very loyal customer. It can even create more goodwill than if things had gone smoothly in the first place. However, you got to be careful. You don't really want to create service failures just so you can attempt to build better loyalty. Okay. Now, how do we do that? Let's take a look at the phases of service recovery. And this is also kind of mislabeled, but that's what we call it. It's actually the way to continue to build customer loyalty and also align the perception of what you think you're giving your customers with your customers. So let's take a look at a company that is doomed. Okay. Basically, there's no complaint handling. Angry customers are ignored. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but there's no process to respond to complaints. If letters or emails come in, nothing is done with them. Or maybe if it's done, it's probably done pretty haphazardly. So now, then we go into a stage where there's a company that's reactive. Customer complaints are heard and a response is made. Okay, we're moving in the right direction. But the process isn't organized. It's haphazard, and it hasn't got any defined goals for what the response should do. And there is really no one owning the process. Whoever you come across kind of deals with it, and that's just the way it is. Let's go to active listening. There is a response to issues voiced by customers, and it's structured. Specific people have the responsibility to respond to complaints. And there are some guidelines in place for, for the responses. However, it's still just reacting to when the customer has an issue. Okay. Now, if we go to Salacious, this is when we move from reactive to proactive solicitation of customers with issues. Now, the most important thing here is, this is a very important stage because most customers do not complain. Okay. Unless they're very, very upset, but basically they just leave or they don't do any more business with you. Now, this is accomplished by encouraging customers to voice their issues, their complaints, their thoughts. And this is done by surveys and responses to reviews that you received. Now, the highest level of service recovery, building service loyalty, and engaging employees is Infused. This is where the service recovery process is achieved through complaint identification, and it merges with an organized business process improvement process. The owners of the processes that cause customer issues are informed, they're managed, they're trained, and basically they're examining the process, whatever caused that issue, and they put in place something that assists with avoiding that in the future. Okay, let me see, we don't have any questions. Nope, okay, good. So what we've covered is, what is customer service, the stages of customer engagement, building a customer service company culture, the importance of employee engagement, and how to recover service. Now, are there any questions before we move on? Anybody? And if you want to, you can put it in the chat. Oops.
Nope, there are no questions in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Well, I hope everybody understood everything. What I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about the Stony Brook Business Development Center, what we do. Some of you may know that, but I just want to remind you of all the services. And we have free and confidential one-on-one consulting, and we're all certified New York State business advisors. The areas that we support and cover are basically cover the areas from starting a business, growing a business, managing your business, expanding your business, online activities, and it's there. Okay, so we cover all those areas. And we have training and tools available. If you go to our website, these webinars are recorded and available under the events tab. Okay, so we got that. And just to show you that we are heavily networked with a bunch of the organizations in the area, so we can usually, we can provide a resource or find a resource that will help you with whatever we're dealing with. And we can do that quite successfully. And we have some of our special events. We're getting ready to, we're working very closely with the Hauppauge Industrial Association with the Manufacturing Day coming up in October. We have, because of the growing requirement, a very active Hispanic business initiative where actually a lot of our material is available in Spanish. And we also have Spanish speaking advisors. There's an entrepreneurial challenge that we are involved in support with the Stony Brook University. And also B&B Bank, which is now becoming Dime. There's a technology entrepreneurial pitch night, which we are involved in support. And basically here are all of our contact details. I believe all this information will be in the webinar when it's posted, but you can see if you want to contact us, there's our website. If you want to make an appointment, you can actually click on the second link. We also have some videos that promote what we do, and they're both in English and Spanish. If you want to get on our mailing list, you can do that. And we also have a working relationship with the Miller Business Center. Okay, and I want to thank everybody. And are there any questions before we go on or we finish up?